Hey everybody, this is Luther Beck. You're listening to Powerhouse. This is episode 5. I want to begin with a quote from Watchman Nee. We recognize already that regeneration of the spirit is the paramount need of man. Watchman Nee wrote the book The Spiritual Man. Last time I talked about spiritual health, I just kind of opened the discussion of the subject that we have more going on than just our bodies, more going on than just our heart and our emotions. We have a deeper part of us, almost the truest, most eternal part of us, our spirit. So I want to introduce my special guest, my wife, Jacqueline Beck. Jacqueline, welcome to Powerhouse.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know you just came in the door, so you're part of this organic experience of the Powerhouse show where we just talk and kind of let it flow. Let's kick the ball around about this topic of spiritual health. What do you think about it?
I think it's a really deep topic, and it could go in a lot of different directions depending on who you're talking to and who you're asking.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool how you compared physical health to mental health, and then there's another layer of spiritual health, which you had mentioned not very many people think about on a day-to-day basis.
Right. Well, and I take for granted that I'm always considering the spiritual climate of a situation or of even my own mind or my own spirit and how they connect. Whereas a lot of people just talk about, well, I went to the doctors, well, they didn't know what was wrong with me. Well, they think I might have to have surgery. And I'm always jumping right to, well, hold on a second. Did what else is going on? Is it only, the doctors don't know. So, I mean, haven't we heard that a lot? That like the doctors can only sort of go skin deep.
Well, I mean, actually, nowadays they are recognizing that there is another layer to us as humans. I think that they are implementing several spiritual practices in an institutionalized way
Oh, yeah.
in our modern society, but at the same time, how beneficial are some of these practices? And like you said in the last episode, if we have this awareness that we need to be spiritually active in a way, and we're not sure what way is the healthiest, most beneficial way to be spiritually active, we might be grabbing onto spiritual practices that might not be the healthiest ways. And I think that the majority of people on earth have an awareness of a spiritual need, and even a lot of practitioners are more holistic in their ways of prescribing their patients with health. I mean, and help.
You're talking about kind of like after the 60s and 70s and things like yoga and meditation and things like that became super popular to where doctors might even recommend that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
totally. And yeah, definitely. Stress management, meditation, visualization, just taking care of yourself and, a healthy diet, sleeping enough, having a stress-free environment, and also doing things that will help you calm down on a deeper level. And even a lot of hospitals are using things like Reiki therapy and yoga and
The binaural beats and the sound healing and
down
things
like
like that.
I've heard a lot of that stuff really being utilized in a lot of institutions.
What about the popularization of like psilocybin for,
Mental health and
yeah, for
things like that.
PTSD and, Vietnam veterans and things like that. Psychedelic drugs and
Well, honestly, I think the use of psychedelic drugs in order to treat mental disorders is a topic for a different show.
yeah, that's a whole can of
That's,
worms in itself.
I agree.
But the whole point is, you reminded me. No, people do know that there's more going on than meets the eye.
Yeah, honestly, even current statistics and current research shows that the percentage of true atheists who are just materialistic is very small now. It's a very small percentage of true atheists. So I think that there are a lot of people who are spiritual. I've met them over the years. I was one. I was very spiritual. I
Mm-hmm.
was seeking and searching for years, and I did a lot of different spiritual things, and it just always left me empty again. And it didn't really change myself as who I am, and I was always left with the same problems. And now I have peace that is very deep.
That kind of brings us back to the definition I gave on episode 4 of what health means. It had in that definition stability and soundness. Like you've landed on something that you can keep. Basically, where if you're spiritual but not religious, or quote unquote trying different spiritual methods or coping things like you were, it's almost like the salad bar, right? You're like, oh, well, let's try a little bit of this, let's grab some of that, let's scoop on some of,
Mm-hmm.
this looks good, but I'm not sure if it's going to set well with me, and you're kind of bouncing back and forth. Whereas that's not the definition of health. The definition of health is something that sustainably works spiritually. So I almost wanted to say, how do you know if something is spiritually dangerous or if it's true or if it's false? Because some of these things can give you a euphoric response, or they can
Mm-hmm.
even be somewhat beneficial for a very short period of time. So how do you know what is and isn't spiritually healthy?
Well, I don't know. That's actually like a really hard question to try to define and answer. I think that since I believe, and I think many people believe that the spirit is the deepest, most innermost part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're feeding the spirit, then that should overflow into the other parts of us, our soul, our minds, our mental health, our emotional health, and even our physical health. So I think that there are many different indicators of how different spiritual practices are benefiting yourself
Mm-hmm.
and others, because I think that it's not only about us, it's also about how are we interacting with our families, our
Ah,
neighbors, our
there you
community,
go. That's
our
good.
coworkers, our families. It's like this outflowing work. So
Mm.
like if we're doing something spiritual like meditation or yoga or Bible studies or seeking the Lord in prayer and praising Him with music and many different things that we could do.
Hmm.
If we're feeding our spirits, then that should be directly affecting who we are as people. And like you said before, it should be a long lasting. It shouldn't be like I used to meditate and it would help calm me down and bring me to a place of calmness for maybe about 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Like during the meditation, I could become calm, and then afterwards, I could carry that calmness and peace. But then it would kind of lift off, and I still had depression, anxiety, anger, rage, self hatred, hopelessness, like just this out of control feeling, this lost feeling, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. I just still had
Hmm.
all of those
And those affect people.
unhealthy relationships in my life, and just you know like so that was a spiritual practice that I was doing, meditation, and it did help for a little while, but like I said, it would wear off and it didn't change who I was at the core. But now my spiritual practices have changed who I am at the core. And now I no longer have depression or anxiety or rage or self hatred or drug addiction or alcohol addiction or unhealthy relationships. I mean, we're still on this path. I'm not perfect by any means, but I think that there are different indicators in our mental and emotional health and our physical health and our relational health. How do we relate to ourselves, our families, our communities, and God?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there should be some red flags if you're damaging yourself spiritually. And then even if you can get yourself into a positive vibe or a positive state, you can't just cut yourself off from everything and go meditate on a mountain indefinitely. That's not
Exactly.
going to be
We need
sustainable.
exactly. I actually thought about that because I was studying Buddhism as a young teenager and a young woman. I knew some people who were into that, and I was seeking spiritually. And I found out, I read about a woman who became a Buddhist monk, and she abandoned her family in order to be a monk. And I was like, wow, that's not good. That's sad. She had to leave her daughter and her husband and her community to go be a monk. And then I found out that Buddha himself abandoned his son, and he
Ouch.
named his own son Hindrance, or like a shackle, because that was getting in the way of nirvana. So I was like, wow, Buddha abandoned and neglected his son. That's horrible. Like, that's not what I viewed as positive spiritual health. Like, maybe they were seeking themselves to go so deep into the spirit and go so deep into just meditating day and night, so that they themselves could reach this state of nirvana, this state of bliss, this state of enlightenment. But in
Mm.
order to do that, it was so self seeking that they cut off and hurt other people around them. Where as other spiritual leaders, like Jesus, came to serve others, to help others.
That's such a
It's just
trip
different.
because, yeah, because you hear a lot about like ego death, right? In like Eastern meditations and Hinduism and things like that. But it's like, it's almost hypocritical or like it's not ego death because to separate yourself from the ego and separate yourself from all this stuff that's hindering you, it's actually super egotistical. Right? Because you're spiritually abusing other people or hurting other people, so that it is very self-centered in that sense.
Well, and then there's also a lot of self denial, though, at the same time, because they deny themselves worldly pleasures. They can't have the pleasure of family. They can't have the pleasure of even eating. Like, I don't know, some people are different than others. I read a book on Tibetan Buddhism, which is the most extreme form of Buddhism, and a lot of times the families will like sacrifice one of their children, not like to kill them, but as giving them into um, the monk place, like giving them into becoming a monk. So they have to leave their family and live in the temple for the rest of their life. And whenever they actually become a monk, they get one robe, one cup, one spoon, and one bowl. And that is their only bowl and spoon and cup that they will have for the rest of their life. And they only get, like, they don't eat pleasurable food. They don't get, I mean, they don't, I don't know. I'm not, anyway, the story that I read was really amazing. It's called Leaving Buddha. And it was like the most heartfelt, amazing, beautiful story of this man and his spiritual journey.
Hmm.
I recommend people to read that. But it was really eye opening into that culture. And so, yeah, there wasn't, it's kind of selfish, but also self denial at the same time. And I just didn't really, for me personally, I didn't like that balance. It wasn't, I didn't
And
want
so
to
you
keep
tried some
seeking
of this
that.
stuff and you found that it kind of helped chill you out here and there. It's almost like me. I kept grasping for deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper visions into like the realm of psychedelia and kind of like the place between our reality and the spirit realm, or maybe it was the soul realm, but it was always kind of like, now I'm kind of more confused than I was before. Maybe I need to try something different. And it's just this hamster wheel.
Right, and how did that affect your relations? Your relationships?
Exactly, my relationships with
Like,
other
is that prospering?
people.
Was that prospering you?
No, well, they don't understand because I'm on this path, and now you're like, oh, the cops don't understand. That's why they're arresting me because and it's a deception and it's a hamster wheel because it's almost like you can never find that true peace. So you said that now you don't struggle with the same things, and you did find a stability. What are
I
you doing
did.
differently now?
So don't think that we necessarily have time for like a full testimony right now, but I think that what it started with me was a genuine, open heart that was honest and open to really asking for help from a higher power. And I wasn't interested in religion at all. So I just quieted myself outside on a beautiful piece of land and laid down a blanket and set some beautiful stones around myself. And I calmed and quieted myself. And I cried out, is there a God? Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there who can actually help me? Like, I've been seeking and searching for so long and I'm so lost. And it was just, I really wanted the truth. I really wanted something real, something tangible, something that could just help me get out of that hamster wheel that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really care who it was or what the name was or if it was a god that was outside of me or if I needed to contact my inner goddess. Like, I was totally open. Like, I didn't know anything. This was 9 years ago when I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, what's going on? I need help. I need help.
So it was a humbleness, though.
I was completely at the Great Spirit's mercy, or the universe, or whatever it may have been at the time. I was just like, if there is a God, then I need help.
And what happened when you did that?
So I don't know if that's actually the best path for everybody, because like, what if that's dangerous? What if the wrong thing answers?
Well, there's a
But
verse
no,
that
I
says,
mean,
"If you seek me with all of your heart, you'll
exactly.
find
There you
me."
go. That's what happened. And I wasn't even seeking him specifically. I was just like, I need help. I humbled myself and I was tired of living my own life because I didn't do a very good job at it.
Well,
And I
what
really,
happened?
what happened was I felt a comfort come. I felt this like loving, like presence come and like speak to me spirit to spirit. And it was like this gentle comfort, like trying to tell me that everything was going to be okay and everything was going to be okay. And I just, I felt like it was like a divine parent, like a divine being, like saying, oh, they're there. Everything's going to be okay. I have everything worked out for you. And I was like, wow, like what did I just tap into? And then I wasn't immediately changed. I didn't know who it was or what it was or if it was something deeper inside of myself. Because everyone always told me my whole life, you have everything that you need inside of yourself. You're strong enough to get through this. You have everything you need to get through this. Well, that was a lie. I didn't. I didn't have it. I couldn't do it. I was done. I wanted to give up and be done. And so when I did finally cry out for help from that place, I did find that a higher, more exalted being responded to me, and I didn't know who it was. And like I said, I wasn't immediately changed or anything, but that started a relationship with the beautiful, wonderful, loving, awesome creator that I now call my God, my Lord, my Savior, my friend, my Father, my comforter, my everything, my
Hmm.
everything. And so I'm just very grateful. And now I do. What was the biggest change was that once I met him for real, the creator, is this deep inner peace that I never had before. The anti-anxiety, anti-depression drugs couldn't give it to me. The counseling and the doctors and the therapists and the stress management therapists and the psychiatrist and the anger management counselor, none of them could give it to me. The music scene, the drugs, the alcohol, the relationships, the beauty, none of that could give it to me. I had a lot of times of joy and fun and wonderful people in my life. I'm not saying I had a horrible, horrible life. I had a lot of good times, but I didn't have that deep inner peace.
Hmm.
It's like this deep, abiding inner peace that sometimes, yeah, I still stress out and have struggles and have hard days. And I've gone through many ups and downs since I've been on this journey, but there's like this anchor.
Yeah, I think just because we say we feel that we have found security spiritually, it doesn't mean we've arrived, that we've got everything worked out. But it's just kind of honest and humble, but also determined enough to say, I want the real deal. Like I'm not going to settle for just something that kind of sounds good, or a lot of people are going after it, or it makes me feel good. But I want the real deal spiritually. I don't want to be hanging in the balance spiritually, because there could be some serious consequences. I mean, what happens when we get to the end of our life? Are we going to feel safe? Are we going to feel like we're ready to pass on to the other side or to meet God? And honestly, it comes down to that one scripture. I don't know where it is, but it does say, if you seek me with your whole heart, you'll find me.
Yeah, and keep seeking, keep asking, keep knocking because you don't want that chance and opportunity to get drowned out again by the world.
Yeah, so I want to encourage you, if you are seeking truth, if you're seeking God, if you're seeking inner peace, spiritual health, your destiny spiritually, keep seeking, keep praying. Do something like what Jacqueline did and honestly just cry out, what is this all about? Please help me, somebody. And I would encourage you to do that, because I think all of us who come to the end of ourselves and sort of give up, it's almost then that you truly begin to find, when you stop trying all of these different religious things. And we talked about the red flag indicators. If you're if you're doing something spiritual and it's having super negative side effects, like if you're dabbling with witchcraft or you're doing a Ouija board or something, and then all of a sudden you're being haunted, obviously stop that. Stop that. That's not a good spiritual practice, because in our core, we want to reach into the supernatural and touch something spiritual,
Yeah.
because it's our greatest core need. But yeah, don't do that. If you're dabbling in obvious spiritual danger, get out of those waters. You can turn back. You can even call out to God for help, and He will come and help you. So thank you guys. Thank you, Jacqueline, just for
Yeah.
having a little discourse about spirituality and sort of your journey. I'm gonna probably leave it there. I definitely want to keep on talking about this, but all these topics I've talked about so far, they'll keep coming back around again, and I'm going to keep hitting on more, plumbing the depths of these issues. But yeah, that was a good first guest. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
All right, guys, remember, I want to hear from you. You can email me at powerhousepodcast7. You can also check me out on Instagram. And remember, you are a loved one. Thanks for listening to Powerhouse. Catch you next time. Bye.